Amelia Carter had always been the calm one in the family, the composed one. The one who smiled through tension and poured wine even when her hands trembled. Growing up in the Carters' grand estate, outside Seattle had taught her one thing: appearances mattered more than truth. Her parents, Gregory and Eleanor Carter, were pillars of their community. Old money, old rules, and a brand new image they guarded like crown jewels. But that image, Amelia had learned, was built on lies. It began 3 weeks before the dinner that would destroy everything. Amelia had come home early from her job at a nonprofit art gallery. The housekeeper, Rosa, met her at the door, flustered and pale. "Miss Amelia, I didn't know you'd be home so soon," Rosa said quickly, wringing her hands. "Is something wrong?" Amelia asked. Rosa hesitated. "Your father's in his study. He said not to disturb him, but he's not alone." "Not alone?" Rosa lowered her voice. "Mrs. Elise came by again." Amelia froze. Mrs. Elise. That name again. The woman who'd been helping with her father's charitable foundation. The same one, who always called at odd hours and whose perfume lingered in the hall long after she left. Something in Amelia's stomach twisted. She walked quietly down the hall, her heels muffled against the Persian rug, until she reached the slightly ajar study door. Her father's voice drifted through, low, smooth, confident. "You know she can't find out, Elise. If Amelia ever sees those records—" A woman's laugh interrupted him. "Relax, Greg. She's too busy playing savior at her art gallery. She won't notice." Amelia's hand tightened on the doorframe. She wanted to burst in, demand answers. But she didn't. Not yet. Because that wasn't just betrayal. It was evidence. That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, her mind spinning with pieces that had never fit until now. Her father's sudden investments. The charity donations that never matched the financial reports she'd reviewed for her mother's foundation. And Elise, the woman her father had claimed was just a consultant. By morning, the truth had started to take shape. Amelia spent the next few days digging quietly. She used her access to the Carter family trust account, something her parents had carelessly left under her name years ago, and went through recent transactions. The numbers didn't lie. If over $800,000 had been transferred from the foundation to a shell company, registered under Elise Grant. But it wasn't just money. There were documents, falsified tax forms, missing donations, and suspicious, anonymous gifts listed under Amelia's own signature. Her father had been laundering money through her name. The shock hit her like ice water. The perfect Gregory Carter, beloved by the community, had not only betrayed the family's trust, he'd used her as a cover. She printed everything: emails, transaction logs, bank reports, and hid them in a slim leather folder. Then she waited. Because the Carters had a rule. Every year on her mother's birthday, they hosted a grand dinner. Family, friends, investors, even the mayor sometimes. It was tradition, the night everyone pretended to be perfect. And this year, Amelia decided, would be the last time anyone called them perfect. The evening of the dinner arrived with rain and gold lights. The Carter estate glowed like a postcard. Glass chandeliers, live jazz, and laughter that rang too loudly to be real. Amelia arrived late, deliberately. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but sharp, the kind that didn't blend in. Her hair was swept back, her expression calm but unreadable. As she entered, heads turned. Her father, already mid-conversation with the mayor, smiled tightly. "There's my girl," he said, kissing her cheek. "I was worried you'd gotten lost." "Oh, I know my way around lies," Amelia said sweetly. Her mother, Eleanor, caught her arm. "Darling, behave tonight. We have guests." Amelia smiled. "Don't worry, Mother. I plan to." The dinner table was a masterpiece. Crystal glasses, silver cutlery, candlelight reflecting off polished oak. Around it sat the whole Carter circle, uncles, cousins, old friends, and new money investors. And sitting gracefully beside her father, Elise Grant. Amelia felt her pulse tighten. Elise was beautiful in that calculated way. Perfect hair, perfect smile, eyes that flickered with superiority. When Elise saw Amelia, she smiled, the kind of smile that said, "You won't do anything here." Dinner began smoothly. Champagne poured, laughter filled the air, and her father launched into his usual toast about honor, unity, and the Carter legacy. Amelia waited, each minute stretching like wire. Then, as dessert was served, her father raised his glass again. "Before we finish," he said warmly, "I'd like to thank everyone for supporting our family and the Carter Foundation's success this year." "We've achieved record donations," Amelia interrupted softly. "Actually, that's not entirely true." The table went silent. Her father blinked. "I'm sorry?" Amelia smiled. "You said record donations, right? I suppose that depends on whether you count the ones that were stolen." Forks paused midair. The pianist stopped playing. Her mother's eyes widened. "Amelia," Eleanor hissed under her breath. "Not now." "Oh, I think now is perfect," Amelia said, standing. Her voice was calm, controlled, but it carried through the entire hall. She pulled a slim leather folder from her purse and placed it on the table. "These are financial reports from the Carter Foundation," she said clearly. "And inside are records showing that over $800,000 were transferred to a company under Elise Grant's name." Gasps rippled through the guests. Elise's face drained of color. "That's ridiculous," Gregory said quickly, standing. "This is nonsense. Amelia, sit down." But Amelia didn't sit. She flipped the folder open, sliding the documents across the table like a hand of cards. "Here's your signature, Dad. Here's mine. Forged. And here's the company registration. Funny, isn't it? How your consultant somehow ended up as the owner of a company funded entirely by our charity." Elise stammered. "That's not what it looks like." Amelia's eyes met hers. "Then please explain what it does look like. To all these people. To the press." Her father slammed his fist on the table. "Enough!" "No, Father," Amelia said, her tone icy. "Enough of pretending. You built your reputation on lies. You used me as a scapegoat for your fraud. And you," she turned to Elise, "helped him do it." The silence that followed was unbearable. Only the rain tapping against the windows filled the air. Eleanor whispered, trembling, "Gregory, tell me this isn't true." Gregory didn't answer. That was all the proof anyone needed. Amelia looked around the table, at the shocked faces of guests, the averted eyes of her relatives. She felt her voice steady. "You all came here tonight to celebrate my mother's birthday," she said. "So let's make a toast to truth, to the one thing this family has avoided for years." She lifted her glass, her hands no longer shaking. "Here's to never pretending again." And with that, she placed the glass down, turned, and walked out, leaving behind the clinking of crystal, the whispers of scandal, and a legacy that would never recover. She didn't look back once. Outside, the rain had stopped. The driveway shimmered with reflections of the chandeliers, like the house itself was drowning in its own glittering lies. Amelia stood beneath the overhang, breathing in the cool air, her heart both heavy and light. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the quiet one. She wasn't the obedient daughter, or the family's perfect mask. She was the truth, raw, undeniable, and unstoppable, and she knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, the Carter mansion looked different. It wasn't the lights, or the rain-washed garden. It was the silence, the kind that comes after an explosion. Amelia stood by her car in the driveway, watching through the glass windows as staff hurried to pack up the dining room. The elegant chaos from the night before had turned into quiet panic. She could almost feel her father's anger pulsing from inside. But Amelia wasn't afraid anymore. She had told the truth, in front of everyone who mattered to her parents. Investors, family, old friends, all witnesses to the end of the Carter illusion. Still, she knew this was far from over. Her phone buzzed. It was her mother. "Mom, come home. Now." Amelia sighed. She knew this confrontation was inevitable. The confrontation, when Amelia walked into the living room. Eleanor Carter was sitting on the edge of the couch, pale and rigid, clutching a cup of untouched coffee. Gregory stood near the fireplace, staring into it as if he could burn last night's memory away. Close the door, he said quietly. Amelia did. Then she folded her arms and waited. Gregory turned. His face, once composed and commanding, now looked hollow. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes, Amelia said. I stopped you before you dragged all of us into prison. Don't be dramatic, he snapped. You humiliated this family. You humiliated me. Eleanor spoke softly, her voice trembling. Amelia, you blindsided us. You could have come to me first. I tried, Amelia said bitterly. You never listen, Mother. You never want to know what's real, only what looks good on camera. Her mother flinched. Amelia's tone softened. Do you even realize he used my name? My signature on those documents? If the IRS came knocking, it would be me in handcuffs, not him. Gregory's jaw clenched. You exaggerate, do I? She pulled out her phone and scrolled through emails. I have every record backed up, every forged document, every transfer. Eleanor's lip trembled. Greg, please tell me she's lying. Gregory turned away, unable to answer. That silence shattered something in her mother's eyes. The collapse. By evening, the story had hit the news. Carter Foundation under investigation for financial misconduct. Reporters camped outside the gates, flashing lights, shouting questions, microphones thrust through fences. The perfect public downfall. Eleanor locked herself in her room. Gregory's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Lawyers, board members, friends, suddenly wanting distance. And Amelia? She watched it all unfold from her apartment downtown, numb but steady. Her best friend, Sophie, called that night. Amelia, are you okay? You're all over Channel 5. I'm fine, Amelia said. They'll call me the villain, but at least it's true. You're not the villain, Sophie said firmly. You're the only one brave enough to break the silence. Amelia smiled faintly. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just the one who finally stopped being afraid. Elise's desperation. 2 days later, Amelia got an unexpected visitor, Elise Grant. She arrived without an appointment, uninvited, in dark sunglasses and trembling hands. We need to talk, she said, her voice sharp but desperate. Amelia crossed her arms. I don't think we have anything left to discuss. Please, Elise whispered. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Your father said it was just temporary, that he'd fix it. Amelia raised an eyebrow. You helped him forge documents in my name, Elise. That's not temporary. That's criminal, Elise's mask slipped. He promised me everything. The foundation, the contracts, even a seat on the board. And now, I'm ruined. Welcome to the truth, Amelia said coldly. You don't understand, Elise hissed. If I go down, he's taking you with him. He told the lawyers it was your idea. Amelia's stomach turned. What? He's blaming you? He said you handled the financial transfers. That you framed him out of jealousy. Amelia's pulse quickened. She stepped closer. If he wants a war, he'll get one. The evidence. The next morning, Amelia walked into the downtown law firm representing the Carter Foundation. Her heels echoed through the marble hallway like gunshots. Miss Carter, the senior partner greeted stiffly. We weren't expecting— Oh, I'm sure you weren't, she said, placing a thick USB drive on the desk. This contains every original file, including my father's encrypted emails, signed invoices, and hidden communications with Elise Grant. I'm submitting it to the authorities by noon. The lawyer swallowed hard. You're turning on your own family? Amelia's voice was ice. No, I'm turning on corruption. And she walked out, calm, unstoppable, leaving behind the last fragments of the girl who once stayed silent. The breakdown. That evening, Gregory showed up at her apartment. No driver, no tie, just a broken man in a wrinkled shirt. He didn't knock. He just stood at her door, rain dripping from his hair. You've destroyed everything, he said quietly. Amelia didn't flinch. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it was whole. You think you're righteous, he sneered. But when the media's done, they'll call you ungrateful, heartless. Maybe, Amelia said. But they'll call you guilty. He stepped closer, his face twisted with fury. You think the world will forgive you for humiliating your own father? I don't need forgiveness, she said. I just need the truth. Gregory stared at her for a long time, and then for the first time in her life, he looked small, weak, human. When he left, Amelia didn't stop him. She just closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding, not from fear, but from relief. The fall within weeks. The foundation was frozen, investigations deepened, news outlets released headlines daily. Gregory Carter resigns amidst scandal. Elise Grant under federal inquiry. Daughter exposes financial crimes. Amelia stayed out of sight. She refused interviews. The public turned her name into both a curse and a badge of courage. But the hardest part wasn't the headlines. It was her mother. Eleanor hadn't spoken to her since the dinner. Until one quiet Sunday morning, Amelia was drinking coffee by her window when the phone rang. "Amelia," her mother's voice cracked. "Can I see you?" Amelia hesitated. Of course. The mother's truth. They met at a small cafe by the lake. Eleanor wore dark glasses and no makeup, stripped of her polished armor. For a while, neither spoke. Then Eleanor whispered, "You did the right thing." Amelia froze. "I didn't expect you to say that." "I didn't want to believe it," Eleanor said softly. "But I looked through the documents myself. He really did it, and used you to cover it up." Amelia nodded, her throat tight. "He would have let me take the fall." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "He would have let anyone take the fall. I stayed married to an image, not a man. And I made you pay for it." Amelia reached for her hand. "You don't have to protect him anymore." Eleanor squeezed her hand back. "Neither do you." For the first time in years, mother and daughter sat in silence. Not the cold kind that used to fill the mansion, but the quiet kind that heals. The courtroom months later. Gregory stood trial. The courtroom was packed with reporters, cameras flashing like lightning. Amelia sat in the front row beside her mother, calm and unreadable. The prosecutor read through the charges: fraud, embezzlement, falsification of financial records. Gregory's defense blamed a misunderstanding. But when the evidence appeared, the emails Amelia had preserved, the truth was undeniable. At one point, Gregory looked at her from across the room. His expression wasn't anger anymore. It was defeat. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, Amelia closed her eyes, not out of joy. Not revenge, just closure. The aftermath. 6 months later, the Carter estate was sold. The family name, once engraved on charity plaques, was erased from the foundation walls. Amelia moved to Portland. She started a new foundation, smaller, honest, focused on helping underfunded art programs for children. She named it the Glass House Foundation because, as she told her first team of volunteers, when you build something transparent, no one can hide in it. Sophie helped her organize the opening event. "You know," she teased, "you could have chosen something less dramatic than the Glass House." Amelia smiled. "Drama's in my blood." The letter one rainy evening, a letter arrived. No return address, just her name written in shaky handwriting. It was from her father. "Amelia, I don't expect forgiveness. You were right. I lost myself in greed, in image, in lies. What you did was brave. Painful but brave. Take care of your mother. And take care of yourself." Dad Amelia read it once. Then she folded it neatly and placed it in her drawer. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just whispered, "Finally, the truth." The final scene 1 year later. A sunny afternoon at the art gallery. Children painted bright murals on the wall, laughter echoing through the glass atrium. Amelia walked between them, smiling, wearing jeans and a white shirt instead of designer dresses. Sophie approached her, camera in hand. "Smile, Ms. Carter, the hero of transparency." Amelia laughed. "No heroes, just lessons." As she looked out through the tall glass windows, the reflection of her past flickered. Chandeliers, rain, the dinner table, Elise's face, her father's fury. And then, it faded, because some stories end not with revenge, but with rebirth.